Do you have a message or tips, strategies for youth to succeed in life?
I tell you what, I'll give you four life lessons that I think are important.
Yes,
That I
I love the lessons.
Okay. So this is what I gave a speech about a couple weeks ago, and this is what I talked to my children about. Um, the first thing I think is, it's a cliche for a reason. It's because it's true. You get out of life what you put into life. So if you are merely a passenger, you will probably just sort of float through life. And I urge people to get more involved,
Mm.
whatever that means. Okay. That would be the first life lesson. And that often means taking massive action, especially if you want to become an entrepreneur to start your business. That's the key. The key to be successful is to take an idea and to execute on that idea, to turn it into action on that idea. That's the key. So that's the first life lesson. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The second life lesson, I'm trying to remember what I talked about. It's people need to dream big and take risks. Okay, I don't think people should dream small. Okay, I likened it in my speech not too long ago about the advice that Daedalus gave Icarus, his son. You're familiar with the Greek tragedy? The Daedalus built the wings for his son Icarus so he could fly, and he warned him not to fly too close to the sun because if he did, the wax on the wings would melt and he would fall to earth and die.
Yes.
Uh, and so in our culture, we often that's it's a lesson about hubris, and so we talk about that as don't have these big dreams. You'll only disappoint yourself and things like that. Um, I don't think that's very good advice. What we have forgotten about that story is that Daedalus also told Icarus, his son, not to fly too low, because if he flew too low, the waves from the water would get on his wings and they would weigh him down, and he would also fall and die. And I think it is a mistake, oftentimes, that we almost encourage our young people to settle, to accept the average mediocrity, and I think that's a huge mistake. I think I used to have an expression when I was in high school, that I would rather aim high and fail than aim low and hit, and I think that's very important. And to do all this, it's one thing to have dreams, as I said earlier, but you have to take actions. And when you take action, especially in the entrepreneurial world, you have to understand that there are risks associated with this, and you need to be calculated with your risks to try and get the rewards. A lot of politicians, for instance, don't understand that if you want the rewards, oftentimes you have to take the risks that goes with that. And so they sometimes try to pass legislation and laws that make us very safe and secure, but we become much more dependent on them as
Mm.
opposed to giving us more of our freedom so that we can rely on ourselves. And I think that's a better strategy. So that's the second lesson. Take big risks when you dream big. And the third lesson I would say is to go against the norms, go against convention. And what I mean by that, especially in business, is don't do what everybody else does. In fact, be willing to do what others won't do. If you want to be successful, you don't want to be like the mediocre majority and do what they'll settle for. There's in our country right now, there's some studies that say that the average American watches 4 hours of television a night. Most successful entrepreneurs that I know oftentimes don't even have time to watch an hour of television a night. Okay. Um, some people actually place more of an emphasis on education and experiences than they do entertainment. And I urge people to be someone like that. There's plenty of time for entertainment later, okay? And when you've worked a 14, 15-hour day, and you've done battle and you've slayed demons, sometimes it's nice to go to a movie for a couple hours or read a nice book or watch TV for a little bit and veg out. But you've earned it by that point. It's the hard work that comes before that, and sometimes we don't do that in our culture anymore. That was the fall of Rome, as they say. They got lazy, they got fat, happy, and lazy, and there you go. And sometimes we have some of that in Western civilization now. So I would say when you go against the norms, you do what others won't do. You probably have a better chance of succeeding because everybody else has reverted to the mean, to the average. So that would be another lesson. And my last lesson, which candidly is a good sum up of what we've talked about here, is to become an entrepreneur yourself, or at least think like one. And what I mean by that is far too many people think the path to a happy, successful life is to work for others, work for a big company, work for government. I would urge young people not to do that. I would urge young people to be self reliant, to seek independence, to seek freedom, to work for themselves, to bet on themselves, to trust themselves as opposed to trusting others. Because when you do trust others, whether it's government or family members or a monthly salary, you become dependent on that. And it's a real problem. I heard one time somebody said there's the three most damaging addictions in the world are heroin, carbohydrates, and a monthly salary. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think if you want to control your own destiny, you need to go and work for yourself, or at least think as if you do. Because if you think that way, you'll become more valuable to whomever you work for, and you'll be a constant learner. You'll be someone who reads and constantly tries to better themselves. You'll employ the Kaizen, methodology to constantly improve yourself. And I think more young people, they would get more out of life if they took some of these lessons to heart.